serija na našite seminari, която за началото на кирилска азбука. Ще направим сравнение с разни гръцки ръкописи. Донателла е голям специалист по гръцка и латинска палеография, но особено гръцка. Тя е имала образование тук в Месина, работила в Рим, в Августинианум и от няколко години пак тук в Месина. И специалист въобще, специално за итало-гръцки ръкописи. И знаете, че тук в Месина има една много ценна колекция на итало-гръцки ръкописи, които са били писани или тук, или в Калабрия, и които са били в библиотеката на манастира Свети Спасител, Сан Салваторе in lingua fari. Добре. Без да се задържаме, аз веднага dam дума на Donatella. Donatella, ti do la parola, ti ho presentato brevemente e ti ringrazio molto di aver accettato il nostro invito.
Grazie, grazie. Lo schermo si vede? Va tutto a posto? Confermate?
Sì, sì.
Sì, sì, si vede.
Perfetto,
Si
grazie,
vede,
grazie.
si vede.
Allora, thank you, Marco, for inviting me to participate in the seminars devoted to the origin of the alphabet, a paleographical comparison between Cyrillic and Greek Majuscule. As you know, I'm a Greek paleographer, dealing with Greek liturgical and musical manuscripts and Italo-Greek library production. This is the main reason why I'm here. When Marco told me about this meeting, I was a little bit uncertain. What distinguishes a paleographer is the familiarity with manuscripts. I have no experience with Slavic manuscripts or Slavic language. I will not present the result of an investigation. I will show you materials for a general discussion. An exchange of knowledge, skills, and experiences could be a useful opportunity for our studies, the starting point, hopefully, for new investigations. There is no longer any doubt about the origin of the script used in Slavic old manuscripts, the so-called Cyrillic manuscripts, from a Greek model. We don't know who was the real inventor of the Cyrillic script, nor we can specify the historical origin of the phenomenon. This situation is mainly due to the lack of written documentation relating to the most ancient period. We know that in the early history of the Christian and writing practice of the Slavs, Greek culture represented the main model. The creation of the Cyrillic script was triggered by the conversion to Christianity and the importance of liturgical practice in ecclesiastical life. I refer mainly to the translation of biblical texts, gospels, and books necessary for worship. Literary sources, such as the Vita Constantini, inform us about the educational activity of Cyril in the Great Moravia. Cyril created or composed the letters, the glagolitic, and wrote the evangelical exposition. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. This is the opening phrase of the Gospel of John. That is the opening lecture of the Byzantine lectionary. In the Vita Costantini, chapter 15, we read the famous and controversial passage. As soon as he had translated the whole corpus of ecclesiastical books, or according to a more precise translation from Vittorio Peri, the Ecclesiasticus Ordo, the Greek taxis, the order and the way in which the daily liturgical cycle was celebrated. He, Cyril, taught them the morning office, the canonical hours, vespers, compline, and the mystical liturgical service, id est the Mass. So, during their first stay in Moravia, between 863 and 867, Cyril and Methodius limited themselves to teaching the subject and the use of the translated liturgical text. So it was a preparatory work. In the Vita Methodi, it is said that the two brothers, Cyril and Methodius, before the death of Cyril, translated in Slavic only the Psalter and the Gospel, with some office. Converting to Christianity, learning about liturgical practice, translating the books, seem the primary necessities in the mission of the two brothers. If the origin of the script used in Cyrillic old manuscripts goes back to a Greek model, what is the model? It is obvious that it is an alphabet in majuscule letters. During the period of use of capital letters, from 6th to 9th centuries, in Greek manuscript production, we know 4 different types of majuscule book hands, the so-called canonized scripts: Biblical majuscule, Alexandrian majuscule, ogival majuscule, and liturgical majuscule. Scholars share the opinion that the graphic forms of the Cyrillic alphabet come from the ogival majuscule. In fact, in earlier scholarship, it was formerly labeled Slavic or Pre-Slavic Anshal, because it served as a model for the creation of the Cyrillic alphabet. This designation is now avoided to escape all ambiguity, because the Cyrillic script derived from this type of Greek majuscule and not vice versa. For the same reasons, we speak today of Alexandrian majuscule rather than Coptic majuscule. The ethnic designation provokes ambiguity. So, between the 9th and the 10th century, the Greek majuscule alphabet of the ogival was adopted as a model for the Cyrillic alphabet, with about a dozen additional letters added to represent Slavic sound not found in Greek. The ogival writing makes it its first appearance in the 2nd-3rd century of the Christ era, and becomes widespread, especially after the late ancient period. It was used to write entire codices, longer than Biblical and Alexandrian Majuscule. Even in the 9th and 10th century, when the minuscule had already employed into library use, ogival writing is used for books or worship. The script becomes a symbolic image of the timeless Logos of God. It is noteworthy that the oldest witnesses in Cyrillic are of religious content, patristic, homiletic, biblical texts. Let's take a closer look at the characteristics of that script. A contrast between oval, narrow letters, such as epsilon, theta, omicron, sigma, and large letters, eta, mi, ni, pi, omega. The oval shape of many of several letters, such as epsilon, theta, omicron, sigma, from which the writing takes its name, is the effect of broken curves drawing pointed arch, especially at the top and base lines. A strong stroke contrast with vertical and descending strokes, tending to be thick and thin, the so-called pieni and filetti, broken curves, and finally, the form of some letters, such as rho and epsilon, descending under the writing line, sometimes also zeta and xi. Phi and psi, going beyond the bilinear scheme, as well as the lower left stroke or both lower strokes of chi. In later examples, perhaps from the 7th century onwards, you can see a greater contrast between pieni and filetti, a marked accentuation of broken curves, the use of triangular serifs, especially at the extremities of horizontal strokes like the crossbar of tau, the crossbar of theta, which extends beyond the rounded part of the letter on either side. The lower stroke of delta, which extends beyond the two oblique strokes on either side. And the right end of the crossbar of gamma, or of the lowest strokes of zeta and xi. This last feature appears to be a relatively late innovation rather than an essential component of the canon. We have just illustrated the main features of the ogival script. We can see the same characteristics in old Cyrillic manuscripts. Look at the Cyrillic Codex Suprasliensis, copied in the 10th century, the largest and oldest one in Cyrillic alphabet, a codex of hagiographic and homiletic content. You can see the oval narrow shape of epsilon, omicron, sigma, in contrast to the large letters eta, mi, ni, pi, The stroke contrast with vertical strokes of eta, kappa, mi, ni, tending to be thick, while the horizontal ones are thin. Look at gamma, eta, theta, tau, pi. Broken curves in epsilon, omicron, rho, sigma. The form of rho and epsilon descending under the writing line, as well as the lower left stroke of chi. The use of triangular serifs is really evident in Cyrillic manuscripts, especially at the extremities of the crossbar of tau, of the lower stroke of delta, which extends beyond the two oblique strokes on either side, and of the right end of the crossbar of gamma, in zeta, and so on. Frequent in old Cyrillic manuscripts is zeta descending under the writing line, almost a constant, sometimes more angular, sometimes more sinuous. In manuscript production, the ogival appears in two variants. This is significant because the two variants are also inherited in old Cyrillic manuscripts. A variant, the so-called sloping ogival majuscule, with a sloped axis, and the upright ogival majuscule, with a vertical axis. Both types developed in parallel, even if the upright ogival majuscule seems to have had a wider diffusion from the 7th century onwards. It is difficult to reconstruct the development of this script in absence of reliable data, since there are very few dated or securely datable manuscripts written in this writing. It is also difficult to locate ogival manuscripts on the basis of paleographic criteria. As regards the sloping ogival majuscule, observations about the degree of inclination proposed by Guglielmo Cavallo to assign geographical origins to manuscripts have not reached convincing results, except maybe for Syro-Palestinian variant of the sloping ogival majuscule, which has a very strong inclination. You can see in the slide the Vatican scroll, Vaticanus Grecus 2282, preserving the liturgy of St. James. It was written in Damascus or in its diocese in the 9th century or 9th-10th century. Titles are often bilingual, Greco and Arabic. Generally speaking, scripts with preponderant serifs and a marked contrast between pieni and filetti may be taken to be later than ones which lack these features. Being so difficult to recognize the origin of codices, it is therefore difficult to identify a precise model for old Cyrillic manuscripts. In this slide, you can see the manuscript Sinaiticus Grecus 210. It is an impressive gospel lectionary written in or near Jerusalem, and it is dated 861-62. The Syro-Palestinian variant exhibits a strong inclination, approximately 115, and some peculiarities, such as an open row, you can see in the red circle, an open row, epsilon with wide goblet, the so-called a calice largo, flattened phi or a diamond-shaped phi, a serif at the left extremity of the stroke of delta. Cyrillic manuscripts seem to me do not share these peculiarities. Furthermore, the inclination of the script is evident but not so marked as in Palestinian witnesses. Parisinus Graecus 510 is a lavish Constantinopolitan codex containing the homilies of Gregorius of Nazianzus, written around the 880. The writing exhibits a moderate inclination, approximately 108, stroke contrast, broken curves, diamond-shaped phi, use of triangular serifs. Look at delta, theta, tau. All of these features can be adapted to the Cyrillic writing. Vaticanus Graecus 354 is an interesting witness for our purpose. It preserves the four Gospels, and it is dated to the 949. The origin of this manuscript is most debated. The inclination is really moderate, and the decoration reveals strong Oriental influences. Its origin has been located in the continental Greece, in the Oriental region of the Byzantine Empire, in Constantinople. Look at beta with detached bulges, the lower one wider than the upper one, often completely pressed. Delta and tau with the triangular serifs at the extremities of the horizontal stroke. Zeta in the shape of 7 with a long tail. Mi with central curve. Rho with oval slim core and a long vertical stroke, touching the line below. The beginning of the Matthäus Gospel on folios 17 recto, you can see in the slide, exhibit an initial beta with the head of a bird instead of the upper bulge. A similar, this is an initial, the motive similar to the rudimentary one preserved in the Slavic Sava Evangeliarium, an old church Slavonic gospel lectionary copied at the beginning of the 11th century. During the period of use of capital letters, from 16th to 9th, 10th centuries, in manuscript production, there is a small number of manuscripts that can be attributed with some certainty to southern Italy. Here you can see Vaticanus Graecus 2066, dated to the beginning of the 10th century. It preserves Gregorius Nicenus and Basilius Caesarensis. The manuscript is one of the oldest and famous witnesses attributed to northern Calabria. It was written in sloping ogival majuscule of small modulus, moderate inclination with irregular chiaroscuro. You can see again beta with a wider lower bulge, delta and tau with heavy serifs, and the extremities of the horizontal stroke. Xi with a long tile, Mi with central curve, Rho with a long vertical stroke. Look at Mi with vertical and oblique strokes, joining by a bridging ligament, the so-called legamento a ponte. This is important because this ligament does not appear before the first half of the 10th century, and it appears also in Cyrillic manuscripts. It could be used as a criterion to date. The ornamentation of Vatican manuscript confirms the Italo-Greek origin. You can see zoomorphic motifs such as fishes, birds, snakes wrapped around the tau. In the low figure, the guilloche at the top of the folios, but this is a common motif in Byzantine manuscripts, and it appears also in the Slavic Sava Evangeliarium. The writing of manuscript Vaticanus Graecus 2066 is close to the script of the Vaticanus Graecus 259, dated to the 10th century. It preserves Johannes Climacus. This is another manuscript written in a sloping ogival majuscule of the Italo-Greek type. Both Vatican manuscripts belonged to the library of Rossano Monastery in Calabria. Vaticanus Graecus 2627 is an homiletic manuscript, another Italo-Greek witness, written by the same copyist of the Membra Disiecta of Parisinus Latinus 4403b. This manuscript, this Membra Disiecta, preserves a geographic text. Both manuscripts are written in a sloping ogival majuscule of the Italo-Greek type, so not really inclinated, sloped. Letters appear uneven on the writing line, with irregular and not uniform shape. Fidgety drawing. The writing appears uncouth, and these characteristics are frequent, as well as small letters, moderate chiaroscuro, frequent but not uniform use of serifs. We don't have so much a lot of manuscript from Italo-Greek origin that we can confirm, for which we can confirm the Italo-Greek origin. It's really difficult to study in this field with these manuscripts. In conclusion, although some common features of the script appear in the Italo-Greek codices and in the old Cyrillic manuscripts, it seems risky to me, at least at this stage, drawing a line of continuity between the almost contemporary Italo-Greek and Slavic witnesses. We don't have Italo-Greek manuscript before the ending of 9th century. It could be useful to deepen the study of the contacts with manuscripts coming from the central areas of the empire, which were written in large numbers. And even from a political point of view, look at the capital of the empire, Constantinople, for a country recently converted to Christianity, with the need to spread quickly religious and liturgical texts in a common and convenient, smart written language, it would have had a significant ideological weight. And thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Donatella. I think it was a very interesting contribution. And we open discussion. If you have questions, commentary, can you in English, in Italian, in Bulgarian, and we will traduce.
It is difficult to study because I realize now there is a few witnesses dated from Italo-Greek area. So with this situation, it's difficult to underline the parallel between Italo-Greek manuscripts and Cyrillic manuscripts. Just a singular shape or serifs on contrast stroke are not sufficient because they are common features of the ogival majuscule. They are not peculiarities of the Italo-Greek production.
It was very interesting, and it is a question which we always ask ourselves about the original forms of the Cyrillic letters. And I'm very glad that you showed so many examples of this ogivale sloping, maiuscolo inclinata. Because I think that most of the Cyrillic manuscripts, they are written exactly in this script, not the upright script, which was an old theory that it was the typical Cyrillic script, but I think that the typical one was really this sloping one. So I enjoyed the examples you showed because we use them when we speak about these early Cyrillic letters. We turn exactly to these manuscripts, even starting with Parisinus Grecus 510. But here is the big question to which, as far as I understood, you don't have a definite answer. Whether the Cyrillic script followed models coming from Constantinople or from South Italy. It is there is opinions which are divided between these two views, because usually when glagolitic script and glagolitic illumination is taken into account, usually scholars speak about influences from South Italy, which means 10th and 11th century. But these are not the earlier manuscripts. They cannot be the earlier if they are from the 10th and 11th century, the Cyrillic ones. So it is a very essential point. Shall we look to Constantinople for the Cyrillic forms, or shall we look to the province of Byzantium? It's a very essential question, and as far as I see, there is no real answer at the moment. Is it right?
Yes, I have no answer. Nobody have an answer to this question. The sources, the oldest sources from Italo-Greek manuscripts in Ogival Majuscule, manuscript I showed, I illustrated, belong to 10th century. So they are contemporary to the Slavic sources.
Yeah.
And they both use a sloped ogival majuscule, and the inclination is not really marked as in the Palestinian manuscript. This is the reason, because I think that the Syro-Palestinian manuscript are not the model, but the inclination, not really marked, is evident also in Constantinopolitan manuscript.
Yes.
The Parisinus Graecus 510 is a really famous manuscript, monumental luxury manuscript. This is useful for us, also for locate, because we don't have monumental luxury manuscript in southern Italy in this period.
Yes.
But I see that I saw in the Cyrillic manuscript, the script sometimes is really accurate, is on the writing line, is regular, uniform. In many sources, many manuscripts Marco sent me. In Italo-Greek sources, manuscripts, very often the letters are not so regular, not so uniform, not on the writing line. But I think there are not peculiarities on which you can say, yes, this is the model or not. This, there are the model.
I see. Yeah.
It's really difficult because we have not manuscript to use to compare from this period.
Yes. We can speak hours and hours on this subject.
Also the serifs descending from the crossbar of tau of gamma. You can see serifs in Italo-Greek manuscript and also in Cyrillic manuscript.
Yeah.
But they are present also in Constantinopolitan manuscript of the 10th, 11th century.
Yes.
So it is not a criterion.
Yeah, it is always, for us, it is always this limit, this chronological limit, 10th or 11th century. And if we would like to date the Cyrillic manuscripts to the 10th century, we have a lot of evidences, meaning that we can compare scripts as you showed us in these examples, but we cannot be sure that it is related to the date of the Slavonic manuscripts. Even if the scripts are very similar, all these features you explained, which was very important, I mean, about the serifs. I never really paid enough attention to this particular element, but anyway. But nevertheless, usually our manuscripts, the earlier ones, are dated 11th century, which is somehow paradoxical, because we are all the time speaking about the earliest Slavonic manuscripts. We speak about Cyril and Methodius, about their pupils, and then we date manuscripts to the 11th century. And this gap, somehow we cannot go over this gap. I don't know what we are going to do. And it is, I don't know, it is a discussion which is maybe a century old already. I don't know, but it is really one of the most important and most essential questions regarding the origins and the beginning of Cyrillic letters. But your lecture was just at the point, and I think that it was very, very good idea of Marco to invite you, and your experience and expertise are really
Thank you. And a
very
big
fruitful
problem
for us.
is a big problem is also the lack of usual documentation
Yes.
from Slavic countries. We have a few manuscript, liturgical, religious manuscript, so they are written in an accurate way, but we don't have witnesses from the usual habits.
Yeah. The same with our manuscripts. We have no idea of their places of origin, nor of their data, and it is all in the darkness.
Father
Still.
Clement.
Thank you, Donatella, for your talk. It was very interesting, and I really appreciated the juxtaposition of Cyrillic manuscripts and Italo-Greek specimens. It was very instructive for me. I could look at some of these manuscripts, but I never saw these comparisons that you brought as a palaeographist. So thank you very much.
You're
And I
welcome.
would like to maybe to propose some methodology of verification whether there could be an influence of Italo-Greek scripts on early Cyrillic scripts and the apparition of this script. We can, I propose that we can overcome this gap of, let's say, of dating and of filiation of this script by looking for textual parallels, meaning that we have some translations from Greek into Old Church Slavonic, and we can try to find the most the nearest original in Greek. And it happened to me last summer, and I shared my ideas with Marcus Karpa when I was in Paris, that some homilies, very ancient homilies, translated into Old Church Slavonic, show a very interesting proximity with the texts preserved in southern Italy, in southern Italian manuscripts. It means that there could be a contact between Slavs and southern Italian manuscripts in this period. And by a philological analysis, we can do a dating of the translation. Approximate, but we can do it. And it seems that there used to be a real contact between Slavs and Italo-Greek tradition in a very early period, maybe by the end of the 9th century, because it was a kind of a connection of Cyrillo-Methodian mission with Rome, and Rome, containing these Greek monasteries, could be a source of these contacts with Italo-Greek manuscripts. So this is my proposition, methodological, or how to say, that we can verify whether the texts that we dispose of have a kind of Italo-Greek filiation from the textological point of view. So this can be a means of verification whether there was a possible contact between Italo-Greek and Slavic tradition. So this is my proposition.
Yes, it is interesting to compare text. Probably during the mission to Rome, Slavic people enter in contact with the Greek communities in Rome, not in the southern part of Italy, but in Rome. Yes, but we don't know which manuscript they could have seen in Rome in 19th century. So I think this is an answer, a problem without an answer.
Yes, and also Cyril and Methodius write in glagolitic alphabet, not in Cyrillical. And Cyrillical, the origin of Cyrillical is in Bulgaria at the end of 19th century.
May I say something? I'm sorry, my camera is not working. I'm so grateful to our lecturer today, because I've always thought of Italo-Greek influence during this period and all these parallels, and it was very important to see how many other manuscripts originating from other places can be brought into the picture. So it was very, very useful to remind us how it is difficult to judge, and how it is important to be very, very careful using single models, single manuscripts as samples or examples and so on. I think that the usage of Cyrillic script, the origins of the so-called Cyrillic script, is so difficult to analyze, because there are so many layers in it. There is a practical. First of all, Saint Cyril and Methodius was literate in Greek, first of all. And we could suspect that they were in a very good command of copying and not only reading Greek. The type of manuscript they used and the origin of those manuscripts, it is a question of what kind of books they took with themselves going westwards. This is one question. The second one is what kind of manuscripts were brought to Bulgaria and used as sources for translations as well. So I could have a look at the Cyrillic script which we have from 10th, really from 9th century, not in the manuscript, and try to use it as a reconstruction field for what kind of Greek manuscript could have been used. I mean that the part should be vice versa, not what kind of manuscript they used, and to look for in a few examples with no certain dates or origins, instead of trying to say that Cyrillic was constructed on this type of script, but particular script that could be a complex of South Italic due to the experience the St. Cyril and Methodius and their pupils had in their mission westwards, and what kind of books were in use in Bulgaria when what we have as examples appeared. And it is ideology. At some point, Cyrillic script was preferred to Glagolitic, or was it? It is a very, very difficult question, but I think that all these aspects should be considered when we trying to trace what are the models in this all this process. So I quite like the idea of textological data, because we should imagine that there is, at least in Preslav, a huge library, huge in a sense that the translator work was enormous. So they should have a library. And from where? Was it in Bulgaria? Or they try to take some contemporary examples from Constantinople, for example? So it's really, really difficult. I mean, but I'm very grateful to listen to this comparison between the early samples in Cyrillic and what we have left from the Greek heritage. So thanks a lot again.
You're welcome. And just a question now. What do you think about the passage from Glagolitic to Cyrillic in few time?
I've always told that there was not such a great controversy between two types of scripts, just like in the Greek milieu, you have two types of scripts. They're quite different from it, and they differ from each other. You have majuscule and you have minuscule. So looking at the forms, you can consider that the aspect of changing one for another were more like using the script which was easy to use, and because we all know that Glagolitic script was not easier to write down. So but maybe it was more like that they were preferred. Cyrillic was preferred because of the easiness, and it was not a great deal in sense of probably there was a kind of decision, there was a political decision to use Cyrillic instead of Glagolitic script, but I doubt it. I mean that probably the practice of it, and the great deal of translating books which were not liturgical probably helped to Cyrillic script to be used in the practical way, not to use glagolitic script. But I'm lost like any other specialist in the field, and I honestly avoid this topic always, because speculations are great, and we should read works of our colleagues, such as I don't know, Andrei Boegiev wrote a great deal in his dissertation about early Cyrillic script and comparison with the usage of glagolitic and so on. So probably we should look at two type of scripts and not two alphabets, rather.
Actually, if on this matter I can add something, I would like to, like, Donatella, if you're interested, there's a very nice article, but it's in Bulgarian, sorry, of Professor Javor Miltenov, in which he
Yeah.
analyzed exactly the Cyrillic and the Glagolitic tradition used in the same manuscript. Just actually, I got it in my mind because just 2 days ago, I was in this looking at this manuscript from Zograf from the 14th century, and this Daniel, Professor Musagov, of course, knows him, this scribe from the 14th century that decided to write his name in Glagolitic, for example.
Yeah.
But he was in the 14th century. So we're talking about this period, like not anymore the 10th, the 9th century. So in a way, Professor Diliana is correct. These are two alphabets that were used. I personally believe that they knew them all. And in the case, for example, this scribe from the 14th century, he wrote a note in Greek, a note in he wrote the text in Cyrillic, and then he wrote his name in Glagolitic. So it's mixed, let's say, in this way. So, but yeah, okay. About the choice, why they choose that, why they choose this is this is a tricky question, and we don't really. Yeah, maybe political choice. But if you are interested, I can send you this article. Actually, is online. It's in Bulgarian language, but it's very interesting, and yeah.
Our late, yes, thank you for reminding me, because our late colleague Javor Miltenov was he was an advocate of this thesis that glagolitic script was used late enough until the beginning of the 14th century, if I'm not mistaken. But what I
Even later, up to the
Even
17th
later,
century.
Yes, yes.
but what
In
what
Russia, maybe not in Bulgaria. But
what I can remember from Professor Velcheva telling our conversation, and she was, please tell me in which place in the 17th century they might have used glagolitic script. That it was used for certain, for timepiece, for encoding messages. So, but she was she was quite certain that in the 17th century they were quite capable of reading not only but using glagolica. So it's more like two graphical appearances instead of two alphabets. That's my point.
yeah, it could be a good point, but it doesn't explain what happened with the glagolitic script and with the Cyrillic script in the 9th, 10th, and 11th century, unfortunately.
I agree, unfortunately.
Because as Marco pointed out, and it was very essential, when the mission of Cyril and Methodius was in Rome, supposedly they showed to the Pope the glagolitic script and not the Cyrillic. So they were not going to use Greek models for anything. It was not the point at that time. So I always wondered what happened afterwards when pupils came to Bulgaria and when it was decided this is what we know. All these sources are not very trustful anyway, but we know that the change happened in the late 9th century. Okay, well, then exactly following what you discussed about the models, then it is, for me, it would be more logical to expect that at that time the models should come from Constantinople, because the Bulgarians were baptized by the Greek emperor in a way. They followed Greek rite, and what books they should have used at that time when they translated and transliterated at the same time. So they needed Greek books for models. So I would expect, but it is again just a theory which cannot be supported, that at that time the influence coming from Constantinople should be more relevant. Why South Italy at that time? Why the province? Or if Byzantium decided that the Slavs were a degree lower than the capital and then the Byzantines, so they should be given some outdated models. Well, it is another suggestion which cannot be corroborated with what we have as sources. So it is still so complicated. From time to time, I start to think that Cyril and Methodius invented Cyrillic letters and not the Glagolitic ones.
Well, I've asked myself quite many times about this. But anyway, we should consider also that there is a liturgical practice before the Saint Cyril and Methodius pupils coming to Bulgaria. So at least at about several decades. So there were Greek books in Bulgaria. So what kind of Greek books?
Yes,
Exactly. Yeah. Were they kind of following? But I doubted that there was a provincial practice, and Constantinopolitan. It's more, and it's more about following some type of typicon and having books to use and books to translate from. And Simon was in Constantinople. And we don't know whether Saint Clement and Saint Naum were not they didn't prefer to use Italic tradition, but I doubt it. I mean that it's too much to agree without any evidences. So it's really, really difficult. But what we have these examples of early Cyrillic manuscripts, and we could guess what kind of Greek samples they have in hands. So, and to look for. But I doubt that we can find direct parallels somewhere, unfortunately.
Is there other question or commentary from other people?
Well, actually, I would like to add just one thing, because Donatella said to us that the in her opinion, of course, you have a lot of experience like about this Italo-Greek manuscript, and now you saw, let's say, the Cyrillic stuff, and you said that this Cyrillic is more controlled by a paleography point of view. You said that like the letters look painted. It's very well done in this way. If we make some kind of relation with the Italo-Greek, so maybe this could mean like now it's very that maybe the sources it's exactly one from the capital, as you said, so maybe the Cyrillic was belonging to a more canonical way, let's say, of creating this of copying, let's say, this ogival. So maybe in a way we have an answer that maybe it's not directly connected to the Italo-Greek sources. What do you think? Of course, it's just based on what you said. So I don't know, we should have a look at all the manuscript and stuff, but maybe this is a partial, let's say, answer to this, to our questions, let's say. And in the meantime, we have comments like we have in the chat. I don't know if you're able to read the different.
I read them and I tried to answer very briefly because, well, I didn't know about this late example in manuscript from Putna Monastery, but anyway, what our colleague wrote about the Euchologion Sinaiticum, which was commented by Stefano Parenti years and years ago. So it is a known publication, and all this connection with the liturgy with South Italy and Rome is, I would say that it has been discussed quite long ago. It is not new.
Yes, but there is question of the text.
Yes, yes.
We
lots of
speak
text.
on the writing.
Yes,
There is
yes.
two
Very good.
different questions.
Yes, yes.
They are.
No, but I think that the comment of our colleague who is Filoteo Balan, I'm sorry, it was in connection with what was said about the texts as a sort of evidence which could be used when we speak about the development of the Cyrillic script. In this is at least what I understood from this comment.
Well, the first comment that was sent was when we were talking about the fact that also now in the 14th century in Cyrillic manuscript we have Glagolitic, and so he said
even in 16th century.
Yeah, I mean, I was talking about Daniel, but the scribe from the 14th century in Isograph, but the Isograph manuscript, not of course monastery.
No,
but,
the long life of Glagolica is not the topic of this lecture.
Of course. It was just like an example that probably but it's useful to know. It's something that we add to our list of Glagolitic references in. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know. We shouldn't forget that Preslav was also a Byzantine province in terms of manuscript tradition. So again, before the pupils of Saint Cyril and Methodius came to Bulgaria, there was a practice in Bulgaria, Greek.
We don't know. How said Elisabetta, we don't know which Greek manuscript was in Bulgaria in
As a model.
We have
19th
no
century.
idea.
We don't know.
We don't know. We don't know whether the pupils of Cyril and Methodius brought some books in Bulgaria written in Glagolitic script, supposedly. We don't know. Tanya Slavova tried to explain that there must have been such books known at that time. But well, there are not enough sources to really make it a certain a claim, let's say. So this is one thing. And I wanted to say something else, but I forgot what it was. I'm sorry. It was related with this topic. But anyway.
They might have brought Greek manuscripts as well.
No, and what I wanted, I'm sorry, yes, I wanted to say that we have some information about books. We know again from Vitus that Methodius went to Constantinople and brought to Basil, the Emperor Basil brought to him some books written in the Slavonic script. You know, this is a very often quoted text from the Vita. But we have no idea of what Greek books have been probably used in Bulgaria. No word about them. No word about Greek teachers or connections with Constantinople or with whatever, even with South Italy. Nothing is known. We know that Simeon was educated in Constantinople, so he could have a good knowledge of Greek manuscripts and things like that, but that is all we know.
Yes, 20 years the Bulgarian church celebrated in Greek, but we don't have witness.
Yeah.
The first language for worship was Greek.
Yeah, that's the point.
Yes.
Yes.
From 863-4 to 885-6.
Yeah.
Was
Well,
Greek.
That's the
church.
point, that they
needed
not only
Greek
wrote,
notebooks.
they wrote books in
wrote
Bulgaria.
books.
Yeah, they copied precisely. Yeah, so that there was probably a Greek province, Byzantine provincial tradition in Bulgaria as
But
well.
we don't have witness.
No,
We don't know. You saw how many samples we have from that period in Greek.
Nor manuscript,
Yeah.
nor
But we have enough
right.
epigraphic material. We have epigraphic material.
Epigraphic material. Yes.
Yeah, and that's more than clear that they were bilingual. They were they were good comment in Greek as well, especially in the beginning, in the turn of the 9th and 10th century, and during the course of the 10th century, that they were translating actively. So,
Okay, but epigraphic was the topics
Yeah.
of the other seminar.
yeah. Yeah.
Anyway,
Okay.
they're related in one way and another.
Okay, I think we can finish our seminar.
We are very, very thankful to Professoressa Donatella Bucca. Thank you very much again.
You're welcome. Thank you to you and to Marco.
We shall be glad to continue our contacts. Maybe from time to time we can exchange some opinions, examples, or I don't know, evidences and things like that.
Yes, I needed to study Cyrillic manuscript with more with the